Commander Ta stared through the large windows of the control room. The giant ship of the Galactic aliens hung in the sky above Earth. Its crystal-like surface caught the sunlight, sending rainbow colors across the observation deck. Just 3 days ago, these strange ships had appeared without warning, and the whole world had gone crazy with both excitement and fear. Lieutenant Kim walked up to Tai, holding a tablet in his hands. "Sir, they want to talk to our world leaders again," he said. Tai sighed. "And how are they acting this time?" "Still looking down on us," Kim replied with a frown. "Their ambassador almost laughed when I told him about our rocket technology. The Galactic aliens had made it very clear that they thought humans were far behind them. Ambassador Vrel and his team had walked through Earth's best science centers and military bases with small smiles that said they found everything cute but simple. Yet strangely, they were very quick to offer deals to share their advanced technology. Later that day, during the big meeting where Earth and the Galactic signed friendship papers, Director Park leaned close to Ta. "They can laugh all they want," she whispered. "Don't you find it odd how eager they are to make friends with simple creatures like us?" As the alien visitors nodded and winked at each other, thinking they were so smart, human scientists were already learning everything they could. The Galactic didn't understand how fast humans could learn new ideas. They also didn't notice the strange, knowing smile on Director Park's face as she signed the papers that would let humans and aliens share knowledge. What the aliens couldn't possibly know was that something important was happening deep under the Pacific Ocean. In a secret place that even most people on Earth didn't know about, old machines were waking up. These devices had been quiet for thousands of years, but now lights were blinking and screens were coming to life. That night, Tai was called to a meeting in an underground room beneath the main government building. Only 10 people were there, including Director Park. "What I'm about to tell you is known by fewer than 50 humans," Park said, looking around the room. "The truth is, we've been waiting for first contact for a very long time." She pressed a button, and a 3D map of the galaxy appeared above the table. Hundreds of small dots lit up across it. "These are human outposts," she explained, "from before the Great Sleep." Tai felt his mouth drop open. "But that would mean—" "Yes, Commander. Humans aren't from Earth originally. We came here long ago when we needed a safe place to hide." The next morning, when Ta met with the Galactic ambassador, he found it hard not to smile at the alien's superior attitude. "We are very impressed with how quickly your kind has developed basic space travel," Ambassador Vrel said with what passed for a smile on his blue, scaly face. "With our help, perhaps in a few hundred years, you might be able to travel between stars as we do." "That's very generous," Tai replied politely. "We're eager to learn." As the ambassador turned away to speak with his assistants, Ta caught Director Park's eye across the room. She gave him the tiniest nod, a secret signal between two people who now shared the truth. In the weeks that followed, humans accepted all the help the Galactic offered. They acted amazed and grateful for each new piece of technology. Behind closed doors, however, Earth's scientists were making connections that the aliens never expected them to see. Every night, Tai would receive updates about the ancient facility under the ocean. More systems were coming online. Old databases were becoming accessible. The truth about humanity's past was slowly revealing itself. One evening, as Tai watched another Galactic ship arrive in orbit, Lieutenant Kim joined him at the window. "They still think we're just learning the basics," Kim said quietly. Tai nodded. "Let them think that. The awakening protocol is now at 30%. Director Park says within a year, we'll have access to all our old knowledge." "And then?" Kim asked. Ta smiled as he watched the alien ship, knowing that humanity's long sleep was coming to an end. "And then, Lieutenant, we'll remind the galaxy who was here first." Deep beneath the waves, ancient machines continued their work, reconnecting humans with a heritage among the stars that the Galactic couldn't begin to imagine. The countdown to humanity's true awakening had begun. 20 years had passed since the Galactic ships first appeared in Earth's skies. The world below them now looked very different. Cities that once were built of steel and glass now reached higher into the clouds, with buildings that seemed to shift and change in the sunlight. Roads had mostly disappeared, replaced by travel tubes and small personal flying ships. Senior Observer Dovik stood at the window of the Grazek embassy, watching humans go about their day. His three-fingered hand tapped nervously against the glass. "This shouldn't be possible," he muttered to his assistant. "Look at them. They're using our warp theory in ways we never thought of. It took us 500 years to develop that science. They've improved it in just 2 decades." Below, a transport ship lifted off without making any sound. It used a new kind of engine that humans had developed by changing Grazek designs. The Grazek had shared their technology, thinking it would take humans centuries to truly understand it. They had been very wrong. Across the city in a tall silver building, Professor Han was meeting with her team. As head of the Earth Science Consortium, she coordinated all the major tech projects around the world. "The Grazek delegation is asking questions again," she told the room full of scientists. "They want to know how we managed to solve the quantum gap problem so quickly." One of the younger scientists laughed. "Should we tell them we've known the answer for thousands of years? We just forgot it for a while." Professor Han smiled but shook her head. "Not yet. We keep to the plan. Let them think we're just fast learners." Later that day, when the Grazek representatives came to her office with their concerns, Professor Han offered them tea and smiled warmly. "You seem troubled," she said to Senior Observer Dovik. "Your development pattern is unusual," he said carefully. "No species has ever adapted to new technology at this speed. There are irregularities we cannot explain." Professor Han just smiled wider. "We're good students," she replied, saying nothing more. The real problem for the Grazek came the next week. A human scout ship called Horizon returned from what was supposed to be a simple trip to check out a nearby star system. But when Captain G's ship landed, 3 different kinds of aliens that no one had seen before stepped out after him. The Grazek representatives rushed to the landing pad, their scales turning pale blue with shock. "What is this?" demanded Senior Observer Dovik. "Who are these beings?" Captain G, a calm man with a friendly face, simply shrugged. "We found friends," he said, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. The 3 new alien groups, the tree-like Varls, the floating mist people, and the 6-legged runners, all seemed very comfortable with the humans. They talked and laughed together like old friends, not people who had just met. "This is not possible," Dovik whispered to his team. "These star systems were unexplored. How did humans know where to find these species? And why do these aliens seem so familiar with humans already?" Far away on the Grazak homeworld, a discovery was being made that would send shockwaves through their whole society. Intelligence Officer Mrek had been searching through ancient historical sites when he found something disturbing. In a cave system that hadn't been opened for thousands of years, Mrek shone his light on the wall and gasped. The rock was covered with paintings made by the earliest Grazek ancestors. But they weren't alone in the images. Standing among the first Grazek were tall, 2-legged creatures. They had 5 fingers on each hand and no scales. They looked exactly like humans. "This can't be," Mrek said, his voice shaking. "These paintings are from before we had fire, before we had tools. How could humans have been there?" He took pictures and sent them immediately to Senior Observer Dovik on Earth. When Dovik saw them, he dropped his communication device. Everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. The primitive species they had laughed at 20 years ago might be the oldest space travelers of all. That night, in a secret room deep beneath the Earth Science Consortium building, Professor Han met with Captain G and other human leaders. A large map showed hundreds of reconnected outposts across the galaxy. Small lights were blinking on, one after another. "Phase 2 is almost complete," Professor Han said. "The memory centers are working again on 43 worlds. Our old friends remember us now." Captain G nodded. "And the Grazek?" "They're beginning to see the truth," she replied. "Soon, we'll stop pretending." Outside, the stars shone down on Earth, stars that humans had visited long, long ago, before their great sleep began. And now, they were waking up. The Grazek research ship Truthseeker came out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. Captain Losh looked at the main screen showing a planet that was supposed to be empty. Instead, he saw cities and farms, spaceports, and ships flying around. This star system was marked as uninhabited on all Grazek maps. "That's impossible," Captain Losh said, his scaled skin turning pale with shock. "Scan the planet. What species live there?" His science officer worked the controls quickly. "Sir, I'm picking up 5 different intelligent species, and humans are there too." Captain Losh couldn't believe it. "Humans? How? This planet is 30 light years from Earth. They've only had warp drive for 15 years. As the Truth Seeker moved closer to the planet, they received a message. A human woman's face appeared on the screen. "Grazek vessel, this is Administrator Sung of New Harmony. Welcome to our colony. We've been expecting you to find us eventually." The Grazek crew looked at each other in confusion. The human woman didn't seem surprised at all to see them. When Captain Losh and his team landed their small ship at the spaceport, Administrator Sung was waiting for them. She was a middle-aged woman with a friendly smile. "How long has this colony been here?" Captain Losh asked immediately. Administrator Sung smiled. "New Harmony was re-established 23 years ago, shortly after Earth's reawakening began, but the original settlement dates back nearly 10,000 years. That cannot be true," the Grazek captain said, his voice shaking. "Humans didn't have space travel until we arrived." "That's what we wanted you to believe," Administrator Sung replied calmly. "Come, let me show you our network." She took them to a tall building in the center of the city. Inside was a huge room with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of dots of light were spread across it, all connected by lines. "Each light is a human outpost or colony," she explained. "Some are newly reactivated. Others have been operating quietly for centuries." Captain Losh felt his legs grow weak. There were human bases spread across the entire galaxy, in places the Grazek had never even explored. At the same time, similar discoveries were happening all over Grazek space. Their ships were finding human trading posts, research stations, and mixed-species colonies everywhere they looked. Somehow, humans had built a vast network that the Grazek had never noticed. On the Grazek home planet, Federation Counselor Jav called an emergency meeting. Representatives from Earth were brought in, with Director Kang of the Interstellar Relations Bureau leading them. "How extensive is your presence?" Counselor Jav demanded, pounding his fist on the table. "How have you hidden this from us?" Director Kang didn't seem bothered by the Grazek leader's anger. He smiled calmly. "Our presence is more extensive than you might imagine. We've merely been reconnecting with old friends." "Old friends," Jav repeated. "Explain yourself." Director Kang touched a control on his wrist. The room's lights dimmed, and a hologram appeared. It showed ancient cave paintings, stone tablets, and old books from dozens of worlds, all showing the same thing. Tall, 2-legged creatures with 5 fingers teaching other species. Humans didn't just arrive in the galaxy, Director Kang explained. "We've been here all along. We were the ones who helped many species, including yours, take their first steps towards civilization." This news spread quickly through the galaxy. On planet after planet, archaeological teams began finding more evidence. Ancient buildings were discovered with doorways exactly the right size for humans. Old texts spoke of the Guiding Ones, who came from the stars to teach and then disappeared, promising someday to return. On the planet Vosh, the Grazek governor was shocked when the local 4-armed people stopped following Grazek rules. Instead, they pulled out old books showing humans teaching their ancestors. "The promised return has happened," their leader told the Grazek governor. "The ancient teachers are back. We stand with Earth now." This scene repeated across hundreds of worlds. Species that the Grazik thought were loyal to them suddenly declared they were joining with humans instead. The Grazik Federation's power was falling apart. In a quiet room on Earth, Commander Tay, now much older, watched reports coming in from across the galaxy. Director Park stood beside him. "Phase 3 is complete," she said. "The sleeping memories have awakened on over 1,000 worlds. Our old friends remember us now." Commander Ta nodded. "And the Grazik?" "They're scared," Director Park said. "As they should be. They've just realized they never truly ruled the galaxy. They were just keeping things running while we slept." Outside, the night sky was filled with stars. Each one might hold planets where humans had walked thousands of years ago. The great human network that had been hidden for so long was now revealing itself. The true rulers of the galaxy were taking back their place. The Grazik warship Inquisitor moved slowly through space that no Grazik ship was supposed to enter. This area was marked as forbidden on all maps. Stories said that ships that came here never returned. But after all the shocking discoveries about humans, Supreme Commander Vex had ordered the mission anyway. "Anything on scanners?" Captain Greel asked, looking at the empty space around them. "Nothing yet, sir," the sensor officer replied. But just as he finished speaking, a light blinked on his screen. "Wait, I'm detecting something large ahead." As the Inquisitor moved forward, they saw it. A massive ring-shaped structure floating in space. It was bigger than any space station the Grazik had ever built, with smooth silver walls that showed no signs of age, despite the dust collected on its surface. "How old is that thing?" Captain Greel whispered. Science Officer Larn checked his instruments and then checked them again, not believing the results. "Sir, if these readings are correct, it's at least 3 billion years old." The Grazik crew stared in silence. Their own species had only been traveling in space for a few thousand years. When they docked with the ancient station, Captain Greel led a team inside. The air was still breathable. The lights came on as they walked, and there was no dust inside. It was as if the station was waiting for visitors. Science Officer Larn ran his hand along the smooth wall of a wide hallway. "This architecture predates our civilization," he whispered in awe. "Look at these doorways. They're designed for beings with human proportions." They found a large room filled with crystal columns that glowed with soft blue light. When Science Officer Larn touched one of the crystals, a hologram appeared above it. The image showed stars, planets, and galaxies. "It's some kind of record," Larn said, studying the symbols that appeared. I think I can read this." The language structure is similar to ancient Grazik. As Larn figured out how to use the crystal archives, the truth of the galaxy's history was revealed. The crystals contained records billions of years old, preserved in quantum matrices that would never decay. The Grazik team watched in stunned silence as images showed humans spreading across the stars long before most current species had even evolved. Humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had carefully guided life on thousands of worlds. They had been explorers, teachers, and peacekeepers. Then came images of a terrible war. Strange ships from beyond the edge of the galaxy had attacked. The battle had lasted for centuries. Finally, the humans had won, but at a terrible cost. Much of the galaxy was damaged. The humans had made a difficult choice. They went into hiding, Larn explained as he read the ancient text. They retreated to Earth, erased their own memories, and began again as a primitive species. They kept their true nature hidden in their genes, to be awakened when the time was right. When the Inquisitor returned to Grazik space, they brought the evidence directly to Earth. In a tense meeting, Supreme Commander Vex confronted the human leaders with what they had found. "Is this true?" he demanded, showing them images from the ancient station. "Were you already masters of the galaxy when our ancestors were still living in caves?" Admiral Yoon, the head of Earth's space forces, didn't deny it. She looked at the images calmly, as if seeing old friends. "Earth was never our beginning," she explained. It was our sanctuary, our hibernation chamber. First contact wasn't your discovery of us. It was our alarm clock. All across Earth, strange things were happening. People woke from dreams, speaking languages they had never learned. Children drew pictures of planets they had never seen. Old people suddenly remembered details of star systems thousands of light years away. "What's happening to your people?" Science Officer Larn asked the human scientist. "Our dormant genetic memory is reawakening," the scientist explained. "For thousands of generations, we carried our true history in our DNA, waiting for the signal to remember who we really are." On the Grazak homeworld, the rulers finally understood the truth. They had never been the most powerful species in the galaxy. All this time, they had been living in a galaxy shaped by humans long ago. The primitive Earth people they had laughed at were actually the oldest, most advanced civilization of all. "What do we do now?" Supreme Commander Vex asked his advisors. "How do we fight beings who built the foundations of the galaxy itself?" His oldest advisor shook his head slowly. "We don't fight them. We beg for their mercy. We didn't find humans 23 years ago. We woke them up. And now the ancient guardians of the galaxy are remembering their power." As night fell on Earth, Admiral Hume stood on the roof of the Space Command building, looking up at the stars. The memories of her past lives were becoming clearer every day. She remembered worlds she had helped shape, species she had guided, and the war that had forced humans to hide. After billions of years, the sleep was ending. It was time for humanity to take back their role as protectors of all life in the galaxy. At exactly the same moment across every world in the galaxy, all communication screens turned on by themselves. Radio signals, light messages, mental broadcasts, every way that any species communicated was suddenly carrying the same message. Even species that hadn't invented electronics heard the message in their own language. On the screen appeared a human woman with a calm face and kind eyes. President Moon of Earth looked out at the entire galaxy and began to speak. "We are humanity," she said in a voice that somehow felt both powerful and gentle. "We have walked among the stars since before your ancestors left their oceans. We created the hyperspace lanes you travel. We seeded worlds with life. And now we have remembered our purpose. On thousands of planets, billions of beings watched in shock. In the great meeting hall of the Grazak Federation, Supreme Commander Vex and his leaders stared at the screen with their mouths open. "This cannot be happening," Vex whispered. But it was. As President Moon continued her message, something amazing began to happen across the galaxy. On planets no one had visited for thousands of years, on moons thought to be empty, and on asteroids drifting in space, ancient buildings began to light up. Machines that had waited in silence for eons hummed to life. On the planet Trax, the simple farming people watched in wonder as a mountain near their village split open, revealing a gleaming city inside that began to glow with golden light. On the gas giant Warix, floating cities that had been thought to be natural cloud formations suddenly lit up with blue energy. Everywhere, ancient human outposts were waking up. "For millions of years we have slept," President Moon continued. "A great war forced us to hide, to forget, to become simple again while the galaxy healed. But we left guardians, helpers, and friends to watch over all life while we rested." Images appeared showing how humans had guided the development of dozens of species, including the Grazak. Supreme Commander Vex felt his legs grow weak as he saw pictures of humans standing beside the earliest Grazak, teaching them to make fire and build tools. 1 month later, representatives from every known species gathered on Earth. The meeting place was a massive round building that had risen from beneath the ocean when fully activated. It could hold thousands of different beings, with special areas for those who breathed different air or needed different gravity. The new organization was called the Terran Concord. It wasn't a government that ruled over others. Instead, it was a return to the original way humans had organized the galaxy, as helpers and peacekeepers who made sure all life could grow and develop in safety. Supreme Chancellor Back, A human woman who had recently discovered she was the reincarnation of an ancient galactic leader stood before the gathered representatives. The former Grazek leaders sat in the front row, still struggling to accept how completely their understanding of the universe had changed. "You weren't wrong to laugh at us when you first arrived," Chancellor Back told the Grazek kindly. "We appeared primitive because we had forgotten ourselves. But we thank you. Your arrival helped us remember who we truly are." The Grazek Supreme Commander Vex stood up slowly. "We thought we were the most advanced beings in the galaxy," he said in a voice everyone could hear. "We looked down on humans as children playing with toys they didn't understand. Now we see that we were the children all along." Chancellor Back smiled. "And like all good parents, we love our children. The Grazek Federation kept order in the galaxy while we slept. You did well as caretakers. Now we ask you to join us as partners in the Concord." As Vex looked around the room, he saw hundreds of different species all sitting together peacefully. Many of them had been guided by humans in their earliest days. Others had evolved during the long human sleep, but were welcomed just the same. The humans weren't acting superior or demanding control. They simply offered their knowledge and help to all. That night, after the meeting, Commander Ta stood with Admiral Yoon watching the stars from the top of the ancient building. Both of them now remembered their past lives. Tai as an explorer who had mapped 100 star systems, Yoon as a teacher who had helped guide the early Grazek. "Do you think they understand yet?" Tai asked. "The Grazek, I mean." Admiral Yoon smiled. "They're beginning to. They now see that they never truly ruled the galaxy. They were just keeping things running until we woke up." Above them, the stars seemed brighter than before, as if welcoming back old friends who had been away too long. Humanity had returned to its rightful place, not as conquerors, but as the original guardians of all life in the galaxy. The end.